My name is Andy Mai. I am a Vietnamese American. Every Sunday was dinner at my grandma's house. It would be like the whole generation of us. It would be 50 people at my grandma's house just eating food. Every time we would go visit family, it was like a big feast. And then, we got to share recipes. My dad is a cook, and my dad just loved to cook for the whole family. That's his joy in life is, oh, we have people over, I'm gonna cook the whole meal. With this COVID pandemic, I just missed that experience of just being around family and never having to pretend to be anybody. So these are about like 50 cards that I did a series of. I started this series just as a memoir series, and it's kind of like my story might not be big, but I hope it affects somebody, to tell their stories. I was born in Biloxi, Mississippi. Around like 1 or 2, my dad's brother found like work opportunities in Charlotte, North Carolina. So my parents just picked up and moved to Charlotte, and then we started life there. In Charlotte, it was interesting because it was only mostly just white people. It was white and black people. We didn't really have neighborhood friends because some kids just didn't feel comfortable playing with us. They would just see us and they would ask us weird questions like, oh, do you eat dog? And it's like, no, I don't know what you're talking about. Why is your English so good? Why is your name Andy, right? It's like, your name is not Ling. It's like, no, it's Andy, and that's all it is going to be. As a kid, it just made me shut up about my culture. Vietnamese, like Lunar New Year, is called Tet. And then we do a lot of celebrating. We pass around red envelopes. And so when I try to share it with my friends, they're like, oh, it's not like a mystical thing. It's not like a Buddhist, like, go around the temple praying thing. It's like, no, it's a big celebration. And so they're like, oh, that's boring. Or like, I try to talk to them about pho. Like, it's a noodle soup. It's got beef in it, right? But because there's raw beef in it, they're just like, ew, that's yucky. And it's like, you didn't even try it yet, right? So you just have to present the white safe thing, like egg rolls and fried chicken and fried rice. We had this international day, and there was an Indian girl that brought in a traditional dessert that was like full of like cinnamon and spices. Kids ate it, and immediately it was like, it's yucky, it's stinky, right? And then we as other Asians eat it. It's like, this is familiar to us. Even though it's Indian, we recognize these spices. And then so she was just made fun of because her food was different. And the teachers didn't even try to intervene to say, hey, why don't we try it? The teachers didn't even want to try it because it's so different for them. But it was an international day, right? One of the things we did for International Days as kid was to mimic the experience on Ellis Island, where we were each assigned a culture to try to immigrate through America. Can I be a Vietnamese going through Ellis Island? And the answer I got was, no, because no Vietnamese went through Ellis Island. It's like, well, can I be Chinese? It's like, well, I don't know anything about that. It's like, you have an Asian kid in your class. So why didn't you try to figure it out? Because, there was tons of Chinese people that immigrated alongside the Europeans. It's things that I've never really told anybody else, but it sticks with me because it's a very othering thing. It was a mix of not meeting people's expectations and being called boring because it wasn't what they see on TV, right? It's like you can't do mystical kung fu. You don't pray to a Buddhist god. You're Christian just like we are. That's boring. You're Asian and Christian, right? Why can't you be Buddhist? Why can't you be Taoist? Yeah. Do you understand that? My mom was very friendly. She would speak with the neighbors and get recipes from them. She would cook us American food, like macaroni, fried chicken, things like that. And then she would do egg roll diplomacy. She would make egg rolls and go to the neighbor's house, and that's how we got to know our neighbors. My mom learned how to make spaghetti, but we still ate with chopsticks because a noodle is a noodle, no matter where it came from. My mom was a person that was just full of grace and never really held a grudge towards anything. And she learned that from my grandma, and my grandma was the same way. Within the Catholic Church, she was always an active member to help anybody that needed it, you know, donating money, donating time, donating food. My house was kind of like an in-between house for a lot of families going through the area. I remember growing up, there was always 2 or 3 families living in my house because they were either coming from Vietnam and trying to make their way to America, or trying to get out of New Orleans and going to a better area. Because in New Orleans, we lived in a very bad neighborhood. I never knew any of that because my parents got me out of there before I even knew what a gang was. And so a lot of my mom's brothers and sisters wanted the same life. So we housed 2 or 3 families at a time when they were trying to get out of that kind of situation. Part of the Asian experience is knowing that the whole community is there for you, right? It's not just your family. Sometimes during weddings, we would go to my aunt's house, and it was just like 4 or 5 families staying at my aunt's house, sleeping on the floors, the couch, wherever we could. And just so that, you know, we love being with family. My mom and my dad would drive 10 hours from Charlotte to New Orleans to drop us off to spend the summers with my grandparents while they worked or they went to a Catholic retreat. Between Charlotte, where we were like one of few Asian families in the area, and New Orleans, where I was a whole community of Vietnamese. It was like growing up in 2 worlds. One world where I didn't feel like I belonged, and another world where it was just home because everyone spoke Vietnamese. I had Vietnamese food every day. You just walk outside and there was just a whole strip mall of Vietnamese shops. And, you know, it just kind of in a way felt safer because I can just walk outside and play with the neighbors' kids. In New Orleans, we also went up to Biloxi, Mississippi, which was like a casino town. So a lot of my summers were spent in arcades, getting really good at Street Fighter. These are Asian snacks that we had growing up. White rabbit candy is like a milk flavored candy. Shrimp chips, they're just like little like rice crackers with shrimp flavor. And Haw Flakes, like a fruit snack. It's like little dried fruit bits and they're delicious. So the yellow Power Ranger, Trish Thuy Trang, was a big deal for me and my family because she was a Vietnamese superhero. And I remember my dad, every time we watched Power Rangers, would point to the screen and was like, hey, she's Vietnamese, like very proud. My dad, his name is Duck. And, you know, he got made fun of a lot at work because his name sounded like an animal, like duck, duck, quack, quack. And I used to work with him at his welding factory, and I would hear stories about racist things that would happen to him and how much he would ignore it just because he just wanted to put his head down and work. So with recent events, it's just like a level of just like anger and frustration. There's a level of empathy out there where you're just like, that could be my grandma, that could be my mom, that could be my dad, that could be my brother. My mom works in a nail salon, and she had customers come up to her saying that I'm going to help you watch your store. Please don't take any walk-ins. But it's still really heartbreaking to hear that now she is afraid to see strangers. All the women in my family work in the beauty. You know, I have cousins and aunts that do hair. I worry about them. But there's a lot of people that still want to dismiss this as not a racist attack. You know, like the Atlanta stuff. The first thing that came out was like, this can't be a racist attack because this guy was a sex addict. And it's like, well, this guy went to 3 different Asian-owned businesses and shot people. And they respond back to, 2 of the people weren't Asian. You see, this is not a now thing. My grandparents owned a bunch of different businesses. They used to own restaurants, they used to own gas stations, they used to own grocery stores, but they always left them and sold them because they either got robbed or got held up at gunpoint. You don't think about racism towards Asians because we are seen as in a pretty good situation, right? But it does happen, it still does happen. It's just invisible because we're silent about it. It's a very complicated issue because we don't want to diminish the efforts and the things that happen to other races, but at the same time, we also have to acknowledge what happens to us. When I was growing up around 8 years old, I had a friend introduce me to his dad. And all I heard from his dad was like, Charlie. And then my first thing was like, my name's not Charlie. But then, you know, growing up, learning about the war through movies, you're like, oh, he was being racist to me. He was calling me a Charlie. And it's like, I had nothing to do with the war. I told my black friend this, and she was just like, your experiences are just as valid as any other person's racist experience, even though they might not be like the worst thing in the world, they still affect who you are. Your trauma is just as valid as anybody else's trauma, and don't let anybody demean that. So there's a story that another friend told me where she has two siblings and she's the middle child. Her mom would pack a bao with them. They love baos. Baos are delicious. But when they went to school, her older brother would throw it in the trash can because he didn't want to be different. He doesn't want to eat a bao. She herself would go behind the trash can to eat her bao. She loved bao, but she didn't want to show anybody that she did. And her youngest would just share his bao because he loved the bao, so why wouldn't his friends love the bao too? I want everybody to be the younger brother. I want everybody to share their culture and be proud of it. We have an Asian community at work where we want to put together a Lunar New Year celebration, and half of us thought, it's too weird. Our white coworkers never accept this. And the other half was saying, do it. I want it. Let's do it. Let's get together. And when they did it, the other half that was resistant realized that people love this. People are celebrating it. People like learning new different cultures and eating different foods. And it just felt like the right thing to do all of a sudden. And everyone was for it. Our culture is cool.
That sounds awesome.
Yeah.